You're not worth the paper it's printed on. That's what he said, loud enough for everyone at the counter to hear. Then he tossed the receipt like it was trash. It hit the counter, slid once, and landed in a puddle of coffee at her feet. She didn't flinch. Didn't bend down right away. She just looked at it, then at him, the way calm people do when they already know how the story ends. The room froze. Forks stopped. Conversations cut mid-word. Even the cook's hands paused on the fry basket. He had no idea that the woman he was mocking wasn't just another customer. She was the one person who could decide whether this restaurant would open tomorrow morning. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was patience with a deadline. And when she finally picked up that crumpled paper, straightened it gently, and said, "You'll need this for the report," every sound in the room folded into quiet. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you do not want to miss. She had walked into the restaurant 30 minutes earlier with a kind of calm that goes unnoticed until it doesn't. No clipboard, no badge showing, no entourage, just a plain black coat, a leather-bound notebook, and the kind of focus that takes in everything without making noise about it. The bell above the door gave that small metallic chime that everyone pretends not to hear. Behind the counter, the owner barely looked up. He was on his phone, counting receipts, muttering numbers that didn't sound like gratitude. "Seat yourself," he said, without looking. She nodded once and found a small corner booth by the window. The table wobbled. She noticed, but didn't fix it. Sometimes a wobble tells you more than a menu does. A young waitress came over with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "What can I get you?" "Just coffee," she said. "Black." The waitress hesitated. "We don't do refills unless you order food." "That's fine," the woman said. "1 cup will do." The girl nodded, left, and whispered something to another server. Both of them looked over, then quickly away. She'd seen that look before, the kind people give when they think they're being polite about their suspicion. The woman opened her notebook, not to write, but to remember. Every inspection starts long before you open your badge. The owner came out from behind the counter, a towel over his shoulder, loud in that way people get when they want to fill a room with themselves. He passed her table once, twice, pretending to check the floor. On the third pass he stopped. "You waiting for someone?" "No," she said. "Just having coffee." He squinted at her. "You do business around here?" "Sometimes." "What kind?" "The kind that keeps businesses open." He laughed, not understanding. "Well, make sure you pay up front." "We had a few walkouts lately," she nodded. "Understandable. Paper trails matter." The coffee came, lukewarm. She lifted it once, tasted it, then set it down. There was a small hairline crack in the cup near the rim, invisible to most eyes, but not hers. She looked around. One wall had a certificate for Best Local Diner, 2018. The frame was tilted. The glass, dusty. Beside it hung an inspection grade from 2 years ago, B. She already knew that was generous. At another table, a man in a work vest tried to get his check. He raised his hand twice before anyone came over. When the waitress finally did, she apologized too quickly and disappeared before he could ask for a receipt. The woman watched the exchange in silence. Patterns, they always start small. She turned another page in her notebook and drew a small line, a habit more than a note. It was how she marked moments. 1 line for irritation, 2 for escalation. The owner walked past again, his voice rising. "We run a clean place here," he said to no one in particular. "Health folks love us." The waitress from earlier stiffened at the words. The woman saw that too. People tell the truth with their shoulders long before their mouths catch up. When the coffee cooled completely, she set down a $20 bill and waited for the change. It didn't come. She waited longer. The waitress glanced over once, then turned away. Finally, she stood, quiet as a verdict, and walked to the counter. "Excuse me," she said softly. "May I have my receipt?" The owner didn't look up. "You paid cash?" "Yes, then that's it. You're good. I'd still like the receipt." He sighed, exaggerated. "It's just a coffee, lady." It's still a transaction. The waitress froze behind him, eyes flicking between them. The man punched a few keys on the register, ripped the paper too hard, and tossed it across the counter. It missed, landed near her shoe, and slid into that puddle of coffee. For a moment, nobody moved. She bent down, picked it up, smoothed it against the counter, and set it carefully in front of him. "You should not waste paper," she said evenly. "Why not?" He asked, half smiling. "Because sometimes paper is the only thing that saves you." She left it there, flat and clean, and turned toward the door. The entire room watched her leave, though no one dared to follow her with their eyes for long. Outside, the light was too bright. She blinked once, breathed once, and walked to her car. From the passenger seat, she took out her bag, unzipped it, and placed the folded receipt inside a transparent folder labeled Field Reports, Pending Review. Then she reached for her ID. Her fingers brushed over the gold seal, the one that said City Department of Health and Safety, Commissioner's Office. She didn't pull it out. Not yet. The work wasn't about badges. It was about moments, the kind that starts small, like a coffee stain spreading under a piece of paper. Back inside, the owner laughed again, already forgetting her face. He told the waitress, "Some people just can't afford class," and that, she thought later, would be the last sentence he said before the silence began. All right. "Sam," Section 3 coming right up. This will keep the same whispered cinematic rhythm, calm voice, small details building pressure, the slow shift from private insult to official consequence. Each line is written like a voiceover meant to hold a listener's attention. The drive back to headquarters was only 15 minutes, but she let it take 20. Some silence deserves its full time. She drove with the window cracked just enough to hear the city breathing. Delivery trucks, late lunches, and one man shouting at traffic. Every sound reminded her why she never raised her own voice. The receipt lay on the passenger seat, half dry now, edges curling from the coffee stain. In the corner, the date and register number were still crisp. Proof never needs to be loud. It just needs to exist. She pulled into the municipal parking lot, badge still tucked away, inside. The building smelled like disinfectant and printer toner, the scent of quiet authority. At her desk, she opened the folder marked Field Reports, Pending Review, and laid the slip of paper on the scanner bed. Click. A soft flash turned insult into evidence. Her deputy, Jordan, appeared in the doorway with a coffee of his own. "You're early," he said. "I was nearby," she answered. "Inspection?" "Unofficial." He raised an eyebrow. He'd learned not to ask for details until she offered them. Instead, he watched the machine spit out the scanned copy and waited. She turned the receipt over, wrote 2 lines on the back, then slid it into a new file. Unverified disposal of customer receipt, potential sanitation violation, follow-up required. Jordan leaned closer. "That sounds small. It always does," she said. "Until it isn't," he nodded. "You want me to schedule a spot check?" "Not yet. First I need eyes, not boots." She tapped her keyboard. Logging into the department's secure database. The restaurant's license number appeared beside a yellow flag. Routine inspection deferred. Pending renewal. Deferred. That meant paperwork had been filed, but payment hadn't cleared. She clicked once more. The owner's name came up. Douglas Reed. 2 prior warnings: improper disposal of food waste, expired sanitizer solution. Small things. Always small things. She sat back. How many days until renewal expires? Jordan scanned the screen. 3. Good. That means tomorrow he'll either clean or panic. She printed the file and initialed it with a single stroke. Jordan hesitated. "You want me to tag enforcement?" "Not yet. I'll make a courtesy visit first." He gave her that look, the one that said, "You already went once, didn't you?" She didn't answer. By 5 o'clock, the sun leaned through the blinds like a tired witness. She gathered her coat, the folder, and a new inspection form, blank except for her signature line. Before leaving, she opened her phone's voice recorder, field note. "October 17th, she began softly. Subject, local restaurant, West Pine Street. Initial contact involved refusal to issue receipt. Possible indicators of improper record-keeping and staff training deficiencies. Follow-up scheduled within 24 hours. She paused, then added, "Personal observation. Owner displays defensiveness consistent with prior citation history. Tone, dismissive, mocking. Recommends secondary observer for formal review. She saved the file. As she stepped outside, twilight painted the parking lot gold. She could almost taste the next day's silence. The kind that falls when a door labeled "Inspection in Progress" closes behind the unprepared. Across town, Douglas Reed locked up for the night. Still replaying the afternoon in his head, he bragged about it to the dishwasher. Him some lady giving attitude over a receipt. The boy laughed because that's what employees do when the boss is talking. Reed poured himself a drink, told the empty chairs that people were too sensitive these days. When he flipped the "closed" sign, he didn't notice the small sedan parked across the street. Engine off, headlights dark. Inside that car, the woman watched through the windshield, no binoculars. No camera, just observation. She wrote a note in her book. Owner handles trash without gloves after close. No sealed containers. Verify waste logs. Then she closed the notebook and drove away. That night she didn't sleep early. Reports like this one didn't need adrenaline. They needed patience. She brewed tea instead of wine, opened the folder again, and studied the stain on the receipt. Coffee had bled into the ink, turning the total amount into a blur, but the timestamp remained sharp. 43 p.m. Enough to place her there officially. She whispered to herself. 12:43. That's where the story turns. Before bed she sent one text to Jordan. Pull prior inspection photos for West Pine Street. I'll brief you at 8. Then she placed the receipt back in its sleeve. Evidence rests easier when it knows its time is coming. Morning came clear and cold, the kind of light that makes stainless steel look honest. She parked 2 spaces down from the restaurant, waiting long enough to watch the staff unlock the doors. No badge yet, not until the moment required it. Inside, she could see the same waitress from yesterday, balancing trays, glancing over her shoulder at the clock. The owner, Douglas Reed, moved through the dining room counting tables instead of people. He didn't see her sitting in the car, pen against her chin, patient as gravity. At 8:30 she called Jordan. License renewal? Still unpaid, he said. Good. Send me the last 3 sanitation photos. Already did. They're bad. I know. She closed the call, exhaled once, and stepped out. The sidewalk smelled of bleach and fryer oil, fresh cover-up for old habits. When she opened the restaurant door, the same bell rang, polite and pointless. The waitress blinked. Oh, you're back. Good morning, the woman said. Table by the window, please. Sure, menu? No, thank you. Douglas Reed looked up from the register, recognition flickering just long enough to tighten his jaw. He forced a grin. Coffee again? Please, she said. He poured it himself this time, steaming, careful, the cup spotless. That one's on the house, he added. She smiled faintly. How generous. The waitress hovered nearby, uncertain whether to serve or flee. Reed pretended not to notice. Business picking up, he said. Always a good sign, she replied. Silence settled between them like fine dust. He wiped the counter twice, nervous energy disguised as cleanliness. She opened her notebook, turned a page, and wrote a single line. Owner self-serves beverage without gloves. Temperature check needed. Reed tried to peek. You writing a review or something? Something like that, she said. A delivery truck rumbled outside. Metal doors clanged. Reed's eyes darted toward the window. Excuse me a sec. He went out, barked orders, came back with a forced laugh. Suppliers, you know how they are. She nodded. They're only as careful as the place that signs their check. The words landed heavier than she intended, but she didn't take them back. He studied her face for a long moment. You some kind of auditor? Closer than you think. He frowned, unsure whether to be defensive or polite. Before he could choose, the door opened again. Jordan entered, casual jacket, messenger bag over his shoulder. He looked like any other customer, until he glanced at her and nodded once. Reed noticed. Friend of yours? Colleague, she said. He likes coffee too. Jordan ordered a cup, sat 2 tables away, phone camera pointed casually at his plate. The woman leaned back, folded her hands, and waited for the clock to reach 9. At 9 o'clock sharp, she spoke. Mr. Reed, could you please confirm your operating license number for the record? His smile froze. Record? She lifted her badge case slowly, opened it to the gold seal that glowed under fluorescent light. Department of Health and Safety. Commissioner's office. For 3 seconds, the restaurant didn't breathe. His spoon clinked somewhere in the kitchen, then nothing. Reed swallowed. You're with the city? Yes. And you were, yesterday? Yes. He tried to chuckle, small and broken. Had I known, you would have behaved, she finished softly. That's why I never tell anyone beforehand. She set her notebook on the counter, page open to a list, written in neat, steady lines. Let's start simple. Food storage temperatures, waste logs, employee hygiene certifications. Reed blinked fast. You can't just... I can, she said. And I will. Behind him, the waitress whispered to another server, then hurried into the kitchen. Jordan stood, moving near the prep area with his phone still rolling. The woman's voice stayed calm. We will perform a full walkthrough. I will need to see the sink area, the cooler, and any chemicals stored near food. Reed opened his mouth to argue, but the words tangled. She waited, pen poised, the quiet pressing harder than any threat could. Finally he turned and pushed through the swinging door. Fine, this way. They walked through the kitchen, fluorescent light, grease on vents, hand-washing sink without soap. Each floor made its own small sound. She wrote nothing yet. Observation always comes first. Reed tried small talk, excuses, nervous jokes. She answered with silence. Every step they took, the air got heavier, like a storm was folding itself into the walls. At the freezer door, she stopped. Temperature? He glanced at the dial. 38. She looked herself. 47, he stammered. Thermometer's off. Or the maintenance log is. He rubbed his hands, suddenly cold. When they returned to the front, customers had thinned out, whispering. The waitress met her eyes, mouthed thank you without sound. The woman closed her notebook. We'll finalize findings this afternoon, she said quietly. You'll receive the written report? Reed nodded too quickly. Of course, of course. She turned toward the door, the sunlight already waiting. Before leaving, she looked back once. Mr. Reed, she said. He straightened. Next time, treat every receipt like it matters. Because it always does. Then she left, her footsteps soft but final, and the room stayed silent long after the doorbell stopped ringing. The day after the inspection, her office felt too small for what she had just seen. Paper was spread across her desk like a crime scene. Receipts, copies of vendor invoices, renewal forms that looked genuine until you read the dates. Jordan stood by the window, one hand on the blind cord. You ever notice, he said, how the dirtiest kitchens always have the neatest books? She smiled faintly, because they're written for someone who never looks too closely. The cursor blinked on her monitor, waiting. She typed the name Douglas Reed Enterprises, LLC. A list unfolded, 6 locations under the same tax ID, all renewed within 48 hours of one another. Each renewal had the same processing officer, the same bank routing number, the same payment confirmation code. That shouldn't happen. The city system randomizes them automatically. Jordan, she said quietly, pull the confirmation logs. He hesitated. You think someone's laundering permits? I think someone's selling them. He turned, phone already in hand. While he worked, she opened the scanned image of the receipt again. The coffee stain had dried into a perfect brown halo around the total. It looked almost ceremonial, proof of arrogance fossilized in ink. At 9:30, her direct line rang. A voice she recognized, one of the junior clerks from licensing, nervous. Commissioner, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but we've been told to fast-track all of Mr. Reed's renewals. Says he has friends in finance. Who told you that? Supervisor Heller. Send me everything quietly. When the call ended, she looked at Jordan. It's bigger. By noon they had a trail. 6 restaurants, identical documentation, all certified by a single inspector whose signature looked too perfect. Jordan zoomed in. See the flourish at the end? Copy-pasted. Look at the pixel edges, she nodded. Someone forged inspection reports. They drove to archives, basement level, concrete corridors that hummed with old air. The clerk on duty pulled out a heavy binder labeled Restaurant Compliance 20/20, 2022. Each page smelled of toner and dust. Every one of Reed's establishments, had a pristine record, no violations. She traced the ink with her thumb. Impossible, she murmured. He couldn't keep one kitchen clean, let alone 6. Jordan whispered, You want to go public? Not yet. We build first. Then we strike once. At 3, she called a contact in the district attorney's office. Off the record, she said. If forged health documents cross state lines, what's the penalty? The answer was short. Felony! 5 to 10. She closed the call, leaned back and stared at the ceiling. Outside her window, storm clouds stacked over the skyline, thick, grey, patient. She whispered to herself, Perfect weather for truth. They worked until dark. Each connection drew another line on the wall chart. Reed, Hella, vendor, blank certificates. By 10 p.m., the lines formed a loop. Jordan rubbed his eyes. They built a whole system to look honest. That's the only kind that lasts, she said. Until someone asks for one real receipt. He looked at her. You're going back, aren't you? She nodded. Tomorrow morning. But not for coffee. When she left the office, she carried nothing but a plain envelope and the calm that always came before she dismantled something built on lies. Excellent. Let's pick up exactly where the last frame left off. This next chapter keeps the same whisper cinematic rhythm, but lets the power start to surface. It's about how truth walks back into the room, not as noise, but as authority that everyone can feel. Morning traffic slid by like slow water. Inside her car, the world was quiet, just the rhythmic click of the blinker and the hum of the air vent. She kept the envelope on the seat beside her, white against the black leather, light as a confession. At 8:15, she pulled into the restaurant's side lot. No music, no partner, no camera crew. Only the certainty that comes when every line of paperwork is already waiting to speak. Jordan texted once, DA's office on standby. She answered with one word, proceeding. Through the window, she could see Douglas Reed laughing with a delivery driver, loud again, certain again. He had mistaken yesterday's inspection for mercy. When she stepped through the door, the same bell chimed its polite warning. Reed looked up and froze halfway through a joke. You again, he said. Didn't expect. Follow-up visit, she replied. Standard procedure. He tried to smile. We passed, didn't we? She placed the envelope on the counter between them. Open it. What is it? Receipts. He tore it open, casual at first. Inside were copies of every forged inspection bearing his signature. Crisp, black and white proof that pretended to be clean. The grin drained from his face. These aren't mine. No, she said softly. But they're under your license. And under your bank account. He stared at the pages, eyes darting like trapped birds. How did you... Paper talks, she said. You just never listened. The waitress stepped out from the kitchen, wiping her hands, stopping short when she saw the papers. Reed snapped, Back to work! No, the woman said, voice firm for the first time. I want to hear this. The commissioner turned the next sheet around so everyone could see the stamp. Inspection certified. Douglas Reed Enterprises. Jordan entered quietly, phone in one hand, badge in the other. Reed's shoulders sagged. This is harassment. This is documentation, she said. The state attorney has copies. I'm here to give you a chance to cooperate before they knock on your door, he tried bravado. You can't shut me down on a technicality. 6 forged certificates, she replied. That isn't a technicality. That's fraud. And the food you served under those lies fed half this city. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of people realizing they had witnessed the start of something ending. Reed's tone broke into pleading. Please look, it was Heller. He said he could fast-track renewals. I just paid him to... She lifted a hand. Stop. Every word after I paid him is self-incrimination. Save it for your lawyer. She wrote one final note in her book. Admits participation. Voluntary statement offered. Then she closed the cover with the same sound a gavel makes when it ends a trial. Reed whispered, You're really the commissioner? Yes. And you came in here just for coffee? No, she said. I came for the truth. Coffee was just the excuse you gave me to find it. She reached into her pocket, pulled out one last piece of paper, a printed notice stamped in red, immediate closure, public health risk. She placed it gently on the counter. He stared at it, lips moving without sound. The sign goes on your door, she said. You have the right to appeal within 10 business days. You will not reopen before that, the waitress whispered. Does this mean I'm out of a job? The commissioner turned to her. It means you're out of this kitchen. There are other places that need people who tell the truth. The girl nodded, tears mixed with relief. Reed sank onto a stool, hands over his face. For the first time since she'd met him, he was silent. The commissioner looked around once more, the counters, the crooked certificate, the coffee machine humming uselessly. Then she said quietly, Mr. Reed, the difference between arrogance and authority is paperwork. One vanishes when the ink dries. The other becomes law. She turned, walked to the door and pinned the closure notice beside the entrance. Outside cameras had already started gathering, local news, notified by a leak she hadn't confirmed or denied. Flashes sparked against the morning light. She didn't pose. She simply stepped aside so the sign was visible. Reporters shouted questions. She gave them nothing. The truth didn't need commentary. It only needed daylight. As she walked toward her car, Jordan fell into step beside her. You okay? He asked. She nodded. Justice always feels heavy. That's how you know it's real. In the rearview mirror, the restaurant's windows reflected the bright red notice, like a wound finally allowed to breathe. By the time noon sunlight reached City Hall, the story had already found its headline. Restaurant chain shut down after forged health certificates exposed. The words rolled across every local feed, each reporter pretending to be first. Inside the commissioner's office, the phones would not stop ringing. Jordan handled most of them. Press requests, legal queries, interdepartment memos, all asking the same question. How deep does it go? She gave one answer. As deep as the paperwork allows. She hadn't eaten since dawn. Coffee again, untouched on her desk. Steam curling into the air like unfinished sentences. Across from her sat the district attorney, a tall woman with the tired eyes of someone who's seen every flavor of guilt. Reed's talking, the DA said. He named Heller and 3 more clerks. We have bank transfers, shell accounts, and inspection stamps that never existed. The commissioner nodded. He'll trade information for leniency. That's the plan. Good, get everything. No more shortcuts wearing uniforms. The DA studied her. You could have gone public sooner. Why wait? She answered quietly. Because exposure fixes headlines. Procedure fixes systems. Outside her window, protesters had gathered. Restaurant workers, customers, a few familiar faces from the community. Some carried signs that read, Clean food is a right. Others simply wanted to see the woman who'd brought down a chain with a receipt. Jordan peeked in. They're chanting your name! She smiled faintly. Let them chant for the law instead, he laughed. You ever enjoy a win? She looked at the stack of folders waiting to be audited. This isn't a win. It's maintenance. That afternoon, she walked the corridors of City Hall, every step echoing against marble floors that had seen too many stories like this. Colleagues stopped her, handshakes, congratulations, quiet thank yous. She accepted them all with a nod and kept moving. In the press room, the lights were bright enough to sting. Reporters called her Madam Commissioner now, not ma'am or miss. She adjusted the microphone once, waited for the murmurs to die. Yesterday's inspection began as routine, she said evenly. It ended as a reminder that integrity is not negotiable. Every license, every certificate, every printed word is a promise to the public. When those promises are forged, people get sick, trust dies, and the system rots from the inside. Flashbulbs popped. She continued. Our office has initiated a full review of all restaurant certifications issued in the last 5 years. Temporary closures will happen. It is not punishment, it is prevention. A reporter shouted, Commissioner, were you personally insulted during your visit? She met his gaze. I was a customer. That's all the reason anyone should need. Another voice asked, What happened to Mr. Reed? Mr. Reed is cooperating, she said. He'll face what every business faces when records lie, correction. The room hummed with scribbling pens and camera clicks. When it was over, she stepped away from the podium, shoulders heavy but unbowed. Jordan caught up as the doors closed behind them. You know, that speech is going to live online forever, he said. Then let it remind people that power doesn't shout, she replied. It signs its name and shows up again tomorrow. That night, the city's skyline glittered cleaner than usual. Restaurants double-checked their thermometers. Clerks updated logs properly for the first time in months. Somewhere on West Pine Street, a faded sign read, "Closed for renovation." No one believed it, but at least the kitchen lights were off. She finally went home near midnight. No entourage, no celebration, just a small apartment overlooking the same city she'd promised to protect. She placed the original receipt, coffee stain, date, register number inside a clear frame on her shelf, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Justice, she thought, is never loud. It's the quiet sound of paper being filed in the right place. Weeks passed, and the noise faded. News cycles moved on to new scandals, new faces, new mistakes. But in the quiet corners of the city, something different lingered, an aftertaste of caution, a low hum of respect for the woman who had brought order without rage. Cafes began posting fresh inspection cards on their doors, crisp white sheets that caught the light just right. Owners cleaned their own counters instead of paying someone to pretend. Customers started reading those cards before they read the menu. It was small, almost invisible progress, the kind that never trends but always matters. In her office, the commissioner filed the last report from the Reed investigation. Heller had resigned. 3 clerks faced charges. Douglas Reed, now a consultant for community kitchens, had written her a letter, not of apology, but of understanding. "You were right," he'd said. "Paper tells the truth when people won't." She didn't answer. She simply placed the letter beside the framed receipt and turned the frame around so the coffee stain faced outward. Flaws, she'd learned, tell a better story than perfection. Jordan knocked on the door. "Press wants a quote for the 6-month follow-up." She smiled. "Give them this. Integrity is not a headline, it's a habit." He laughed softly. "That's very you." After he left, she stood at the window, watching rain streak the glass. Below, the city lights blurred into rivers of gold and red. Every drop looked like another moment cleaned. She thought of that day, the insult, the receipt, the silence that followed. How her calm had unnerved him more than anger ever could. How justice, when done right, feels less like revenge and more like balance. A notification blinked on her phone. Inspection schedule. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., another place, another table, another test of decency. She turned off the light, leaving only the city's glow against the framed paper on the shelf. It no longer looked like evidence. It looked like a promise. Because that's what justice truly is. A promise that even when no one's watching, someone will still write the truth down, fold it once, and keep it safe until the world is ready to read it.